Hola, mis alumnos. Today's lesson is on los verbos en español, the verbs in Spanish, an introductory video lesson on the basic verb types and their conjugations in the simple present tense. Los verbos regulares. There are three basic verb types in Spanish. These verb types represent the regular verbs because they follow consistent rules. These basic verb types are AR verbs, ER verbs, and IR verbs. Vocabulario importante. Important vocabulary. Let's go over this vocabulary, which will be important in this lesson. Conjugate. Conjugate is a verb. It means to change the form of a verb based on when the verb is done. That's called tense. And who is doing the action. That's called person and number. Conjugation is a noun. It means the form that a verb takes based on tense, person, and number. For example, I will conjugate hablar in the present tense for first person singular. Hablo is the first person singular conjugation of hablar in the present tense. All right? More important vocabulary. Infinitive. Infinitive means the most basic form of a verb. It translates as to blank. For example, tomar, comer, vivir mean to drink, to eat, to live. Tomar, comer, and vivir are three verbs in Spanish that are in the infinitive form, and their English counterparts are to drink, to eat, to live. The simple present tense. This is the tense that we are working with today. This tense is used to talk about routine and daily actions, habits, traditions. It's used to make statements of fact or observations. And it's used to discuss events and actions scheduled in the near future. An example, tomo bastante agua, como comida rica y vivo bien. I drink plenty of water, eat good food, and live well. This is an example of the simple present tense being used to talk about routine or daily actions and to also make a statement of fact or an observation. Pretty simple, right? Let's move on. Now, let's look at the subject pronouns, los pronombres de sujeto. We will need to know this information before we move on. This chart, which we will see later, is divided into three columns. The first column is for person, first, second, and third. The next two columns are for number, singular and plural. In the chart, in yellow, are the subject pronouns in Spanish, and in orange are the subject pronouns in English. First person singular, yo, means I. Second person singular, tú, means you, and usted means you, formal. Third person singular, él, ella, mean he, she. First person plural, nosotros, nosotras, mean we. Nosotros is for an all male or mixed gender group. Nosotras is for a all female group. Now, second person plural, vosotros, vosotras, mean you all. Vosotros again is for an all male or mixed gender group, and vosotras is for an all female group. And ustedes means you all, formal. Now here's a note. Vosotros and vosotras are commonly used in Spain, along with ustedes. However, in Latin America, you will mostly only hear ustedes. Vosotros and vosotras is not commonly used in Latin America. Now, third person plural. Ellos, ellas mean they. Ellos is for an all male or mixed gender group, and ellas is for an all female group. All right? Very good. Let's move on. Now let's look at the verbs, starting with the AR verbs, los verbos AR. Here is a conjugation chart for the AR verbs. We're going to use the verb tomar, which means to take or to drink. We already used this chart before. Now we're going to use it to conjugate the verb. In parentheses, you see the subject pronouns. The verb is mostly in yellow. The yellow part indicates the stem, which doesn't change. The ending, shown here in a dark blue, is what we add to conjugate the verb in the simple present tense, based on the person and the number. All right? First person singular, yo tomo. Second person singular, tú tomas. Third person singular, él, ella toma, usted toma. Now, you see those two asterisks? There's a note. Usted and ustedes are second person formal. However, I'm putting them in the category for third person because they conjugate just like third person. All right? First person plural. Nosotros, nosotras, tomamos. Second person plural. Vosotros, vosotras, tomáis. And third person plural. Ellos, ellas, toman. And also ustedes toman. Okay, let's move on. Now we have the ER verbs, los verbos ER. Here's a chart for the ER verbs. We're going to use the verb comer, which means to eat. First person singular, yo como. Second person singular, tú comes. Third person singular, él, ella, usted come. First person plural, nosotros, nosotras, comemos. Second person plural, vosotros, vosotras, coméis. And third person plural, ellos, ellas, ustedes, comen. Okay, very good. Let's move on. Now, we have the IR verbs. This is the last group for today. Los verbos IR. Here is a chart for the IR verbs. We're using the verb vivir, which means to live. First person singular, yo vivo. Second person singular, tú vives. Third person singular, él, ella, usted vive. First person plural, nosotros, nosotras vivimos. Second person plural, vosotros, vosotras vivís. And third person plural, ellos, ellas, ustedes viven. Very good. Very good. Let's move on. Now, conjugar los verbos. Conjugating the verbs. Here are some simple steps for conjugation. Step 1. Take the verb in the infinitive form. For this example, I will use hablar. Step 2. Identify the ending, AR, ER, or IR. So on hablar, I've underlined AR. Number 3, remove that ending. So in the example, I have removed AR from hablar and I'm left with the stem, HABL, able. And step 4, insert the proper ending based on the tense, person, and number. For this example, I've chosen simple present tense, first person singular. Therefore, I add O and I get hablo. All right? Let's move on. Now, la práctica. Practice. Conjugate the verbs correctly. I've given you 6 verbs in the infinitive form. To the left, I've given you a person and a number for each. I want you to conjugate these 6 verbs in the simple present tense using the person and number to the left of them. For example, third person plural, cantar. Ellos cantan. I've turned third person plural into ellos because ellos is one of the subject pronouns in the third person plural. And I've changed cantar into cantan because that's the form that cantar takes in the third person plural in the simple present tense. Okay? Number 1, first person singular, hablar. Number 2, second person singular, comer. Number 3, third person singular, escribir. Number 4, first person plural, vivir. Number 5, second person plural, leer. And number 6, third person plural, tomar. Try these out, send me your responses, and let's see what we've got. And finally, el repaso, the review. Responde, respond. What do conjugate and conjugation mean? What are the steps to properly conjugate a verb in Spanish? Traduce, translate these 3 sentences. Number 3, hablamos con amigos. Number 4, escribes en español. And number 5, bebo café con leche en el desayuno. And piensa, think. Question number 6, what is one key fact you learned in this lesson? And number 7, how can this lesson be used to help you grow as a Spanish speaker? That's it. That's our video on the conjugations for the AR, ER, and IR verbs in the simple present tense. I hope you found this informative. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to email or contact me. Have a lovely day. Hasta luego, mis alumnos.